Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and very good evening to all. Thank you very much, dear organizing committee of Symposium on Education in Muslim Societies, Women's Scholarship and Engagement in Policy, Pedagogy and Development. This is Dr. Abdullah Mamun, Senior Vice Chairman of Tanzimul Ummah Foundation, Dhaka, Bangladesh. I am going to present my paper entitled Education System in Bangladesh, Women's Scholarship and Engagement in Pedagogy. Introduction. Bangladesh is the third largest Muslim country in the world. The education system prevailing in this country is a blend of the local and the Western stream of education. The present education system of Bangladesh may broadly be divided into three major stages. For example, primary, secondary, and tertiary education. The primary and secondary and higher secondary level is further classified into four types in terms of curriculum: general education, madrasa education, technical vocational education, and professional education. Another stream of education is that of the English medium schools following the Cambridge or the Edexcel curriculum. More than in the first, women have been playing an important role in the fields of education, administration, politics, and social development. The participation of women in education is now remarkable. In Bangladesh, the participation of women at the decision-making level is too narrow because of the social norms prevailing in Muslim society and the cultural and social reality. The participation of women in all sectors is far from mentionable, but the participation of women in imparting education at the three levels is very much satisfactory. Among others, 65% of female teachers teach at the primary levels, and another 26 teach at the secondary and higher secondary levels. Despite this, the sector is faced with problems. Considering the overall situation, this paper will discuss the prevailing problems and offer solution to the same and highlight the significant participation of women. Theoretical framework or research question. What is the existing condition of the participation of women in education-related activities in Bangladesh, and to find out the challenges and their remedies as well. Literature review. Women are encouraged to choose teaching not only because it has less working hours compared to other jobs, but also the work calendar is in sync with the school-going child at home. Thus, this profession provides enough time to support and take care of the family members after coming back from the workplace, which ultimately gives space to exercise the stereotypical gender roles and to create gender binaries in defining masculine and feminine work. At this point in the analysis, a question can also be raised that though Bangladeshi women from middle-class educated families are working in full swing, have we thought for which jobs and why? The answer to this question cannot stand alone except considering the argument of this paper that why middle-class educated families encourage women to take the teaching profession. Additionally, research showed the vast majority of men do less housework than their gainfully employed partners. As a result, majority of those working women have to do child care, elderly care, cooking, cleaning, and all types of household chores. Thus, this situation is in keeping with Parnas, who said that such unpaid household labor, which we often consider as reproductive labor, requires much time, and to manage time for these works, family advise women to take teaching as a profession. Methodology or methods. This paper relied on secondary sources of data, which include books, journals, previous studies, government documents, newspapers, and periodicals. A qualitative data analysis technique was employed in order to analyze data. Findings. Problem of women pedagogy in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, there is many problem in the sector of women pedagogy. The environment, social culture, and practices are still not women friendly. The main problems are given below. Poor salary. Financial evaluation of their work is still not satisfactory. Female teachers are given a low salary proportionate to their working hours. There is lack of proper evaluation, justified work hours, a sufficient number of paid leaves. Lack of security. Security concerns prevent the majority of women from continuing their job. Parents of women who stay in hostels experience a lack of security. Women experience insecurities when communicating in public settings like buses and trains, so their parents do not consent to their going to distant places. Sexual harassment by male colleagues, institution head, male guardian, managing committee member, or any other person related to institution is another deterrent. Mental torture by male colleagues, institution head, male guardian, managing committee member is another reason behind the decline in their participation in jobs. There is no daycare facilities for their children. As a result, when they cannot any support from their family, it is so difficult for them to maintain their baby. When a female teacher has to leave her baby at home, they mentally suffer for their baby, and that time she remains worried for her baby. That's why she cannot be attentive in pedagogy. A female teacher does not get sufficient vacation. The government of Bangladesh gives all females with a job a 6-month-long vacation for maternity leave, but private sector does not offer the same vacation for maternity leave. Usually, there is no extra leave for a female teacher. Sanitation problem. There is not sufficient sanitation facility for a female teacher. There are not enough clean washrooms in educational institutions. For lack of sanitation, a female teacher suffers from various physical problems. No prayer room. There is no prayer room for a female teacher in her educational institution. That's why a Muslim female teacher cannot perform her prayer in time. Problem include working hours. It is so tough a job for a female teacher when she must be present at her workplace for a long time because her family members wait for her presence in house, and when she returns home, she must do some work for her family too. Lack of proper evaluation and not being given proper positions. A female teacher does not get proper evaluation for their work. They do not get their proper position in their workplace. Suggestion or advice not accepted by authority. When a female teacher gives any advice or suggestion to the authority, they do not normally accept their opinion. So that's why a female teacher is not so interested to participate in teamwork. Suggestions for problem solving women pedagogy in Bangladesh. I would like to give some suggestions for problem solving of women pedagogy in Bangladesh, such as sufficient salary. Proper financial evaluation of their work can help. Female teachers should be given salary in keeping with their working hours. Proper evaluation justification in their work hours and duties can also prove useful. Strong security management. Authority must maintain security at the workplace so a majority of women can continue with their jobs. They must also ensure securities when communicating via public transport like buses and trains. Set up daycare facilities for their children. When a female teacher gets daycare facilities, she can breastfeed her baby. She can then be attentive in pedagogy. On the other hand, when a female teacher can take her baby to her workplace, she gets mental space. Set up available sanitation management. They must set up sufficient sanitation management for female teachers. Enough clean washrooms, sanitation facility in educational institution help female teachers remain physically fit. Ensure proper evaluation and given proper position. Female teachers should be given proper evaluation for their duty and their proper position in their workplace. A female teacher should get sufficient vacation. All private sectors should offer a 6-month vacation for maternity like the government sector does. On the other hand, in special cases, female teachers should be given extra leave for their family duties. Reduce working hours to take care of their child and other family members. A female teacher should be given a short working hours because her family members wait for her presence in house, and when she returns home, she must do some work for their family too. When a female teacher gets short working hour, she can enjoy her job. Prayer room should be arranged for female teachers. Prayer room should be available for a female teacher in her educational institution. That's why a Muslim teacher can perform her prayer in time. She can do her job with mental satisfaction. Stop domestic violence, teasing, violence with rape. Domestic violence, teasing, violence with rape, and other mental torture by male colleagues, institution head, guardians, managing committee members, and by other people must be stopped. We should ensure a secure and more peaceful environment for a female teacher. Conclusion: Bangladesh is a country where teaching is playing less value compared to other professions. The involvement of women in this profession has been encouraged by both the state and the family, whereas they are getting minimum wages. The environment, social culture, and practices are still not women-friendly. We need to ensure a safe work environment, proper evaluation, justified work hours, a sufficient number of paid leaves, and daycare facilities for their children. A change in social practice and outlook is also needed. Considering the overall situation, we must offer solution to the same and highlight the significant participation of women. Thank you so much for hearing my presentation. Hope to see you there in Symposium, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fatma Abdelkhalek, a lecturer at Assiut University, Egypt. It's my pleasure to be in the Symposium on Education in Muslim Societies, Morocco 2023. We are going to present our work related to gender differences in secondary school completion in Egypt, societal constraint on female education. This is a joint work with Professor Ray Langsten from the American University in Cairo. First, we would like to deliver our deepest condolences to all those who have lost loved ones in Marrakesh earthquake. يا رب متمنين الشفاء والصحة والعافية لجميع المصابين والمتضررين من الزلزال. So speaking of education in Egypt, Egypt has adapted the Educational Millennium Development Goals, MDG2, and has long promised an equal education for all children, free of all tuition fees. Currently, Egypt's vision of education conforms the Education Sustainable Development Goal, SDG4, on education, not only promising free education and universal secondary education, elimination of gender disparities in secondary completion, but also good education for every citizen without discrimination. Rural Upper Egypt is the most conservative areas in Egypt, where females and women has been marginalized and being less empowered. These areas are characterized with holding on traditional religious culture and maintenance of established habits and customs. Also, it has gender disparities in education, with about 41% of women unable to read. In these areas, girls tend to marry young and have high fertility. So to maintain the SDG goals on education, Egypt had many policy reforms, such as forming constitutional rights on education, eliminating school fees, constructing schools all over the countries, and these reforms have been taking place over the years. These reforms meant to increase enrollment and achieve gender equality, especially among children from poor, disadvantaged families and different socioeconomic groups. By 2014, gender parity in completing primary was met. However, other differentials in region and wealth remained. Also, universal primary education was closer, but not yet attained. In this presentation, we focus on secondary school completion. Mainly, we are showing the overall secondary school completion rate, SSCR, and the approximate determinants that we use to calculate it. Also showing the SSCR by gender and the gender differential of secondary school completion rate controlling for region and wealth. We are using quantitative data analysis of 9 rounds of Egypt demographic and health survey between 1988 and 2014, when the last DHS has been taken place. We focus on young people aged 19 to 22 years old. In this cohort of people are old enough to have completed secondary school in the normal course of Egyptian education. We are using descriptive statistics. Our main outcomes are SSCR, the secondary school completion rate, and the approximate determinant using 3 controls of gender, wealth, and region. So now Ray will introduce in detail the approximate determinants that we used and show some of our results. So Ray, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we're using the approximate determinants of education framework. This uses, as Fatma has mentioned, this uses an age group older than the statutory age of secondary completion. In Egypt, this is, we're using 19 to 22 years of age. This is a mathematically coherent model where the secondary school completion rate is the product of ever enrollment, retention, and timely progress, as shown in the first line of the slide. We also consider an extended model of the approximate determinants. This considers all of the steps through an educational career from ever enrollment through completion of secondary. We'll see how the extended model works later in the talk. The 3 components of the failure to complete secondary school account for all that is 100% of those who have not yet completed secondary. Some people who have not yet completed secondary, for example, those students who have been delayed, are still in school and may complete secondary school in the future. However, for now, those are just considered as being delayed. From this slide, we can see we show the data for 1988 through 2014, and we can see that secondary school completion has been increasing, but there's still a long way to go. Even now in 2023, we think that there is still substantial distance to go for secondary school completion to be universal. We can see also that ever enrollment and retention have both improved. Timely progress has always been high, and dropout has always been the main constraint on secondary school completion. When we look at secondary school completion rate by gender, we can see that gender equality in secondary completion has steadily improved, and it has now been attained, as we can see at the left-hand side, or the right-hand side of the screen. However, universal secondary completion, that is the Education Sustainable Development Goal 4.1, has not yet been achieved, with secondary completion around 70 to 65% in 2014, and we expect that it will not yet be achieved. Next slide, yes. Here we are looking only at the results for 1988 and 2014. The lower two lines are 1988 and show that gender equality has long been the norm for the urban middle class and for the wealthy, as we see on the right-hand side of the screen with the purple and blue lines. In 2014, the yellow and purple and the yellow and gray lines, the urban poor and young people in rural Lower Egypt also achieved gender parity. However, girls remain disadvantaged in rural Upper Egypt, as we see in the gray and yellow lines at the left-hand side of the screen. Now we'll focus on the poor 40% and the middle class, the middle 40% in 2014 only in rural Upper Egypt, to show exactly where rural Upper Egyptian girls are disadvantaged. And here we use the extended model of the proximate determinants framework. Girls are much less likely to ever enroll in school. Boys are almost 2 to 3 times as likely to ever enroll. However, once enrolled, girls are as likely as boys to progress through primary, and even as likely to enroll in lower secondary. In Egypt, we call this level preparatory school. While girls from poor families progress well through preparatory school, middle-class rural Upper Egyptian girls are more likely to drop out during this stage, as we see from the 113% ratio. And girls from both poor and middle-class families who graduate from preparatory school are less likely than boys to ever enroll in secondary. Notably, boys are somewhat disadvantaged when it comes to timely progress through secondary. But what this means is that while girls have left school families are willing to keep boys in school even when they are older than the statutory age of completion. This is another suggestion that rural Upper Egyptian families value boys' education more than they value the education of girls. Now, Fatma will tell you about some conclusions.
Okay, just to sum up what we have been presenting in this presentation and compared to the Bayesian approach that developed and used by UNESCO to estimate the completion rates, our approximate determinant that we have shown not only show the completion of each level in education, but also provide estimates of enrollment as well as level-specific timing of dropout and of delay at each educational level. We have also seen that Egypt had a significant growth in completing secondary education, moving from a male advantage to an overall gender equality in secondary completion. Also achieving reduction in region wealth inequalities. However, substantial disparities remain in conservative areas, as Ray showed in rural Upper Egypt. Also, quality education for all and universal secondary completion are yet to achieve. As also Ray mentioned, that Egypt still has a long way to go to achieve these two main aspects in terms of equality and universal secondary completion. So that was pretty much it. And we would like to thank you very much for your listening and looking forward to seeing you and hearing your question and discussion at in the conference in Morocco. Thank you and see you there.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Iftekhar Jamil Fuad. Today I want to talk about traditional female seminaries in Bangladesh, current status, challenges, and future dynamics. Now, first let me talk about historical context. In South Asian conservative Muslim societies, female education has been always a controversial topic for last 2 centuries. As a result, you can hear this kind of news. The Taliban banned girls from school. In Bangladesh, one notable Islamic scholar, Allama Shafi, said that he is against sending girls to schools and colleges after 5th grade. Now, it's important to clarify that they are not opposed to female education, rather, they oppose female education in Western institutions. This fear originated from the British civilizing mission in India, best described by Thomas Macleay as the goal of education is to create a class of persons Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinions, morals, and intellect. So, Allama Shafi, in turn, expressed his fear as, if you allow your girls to be educated in Western institutions, they would be no longer remain yours. Now, there can be question that why only the girls, right? I mean, boys also can be influenced by Western institutions. So why, I mean, they are specifying the girls? Despite these controversial perspectives, official accounts from 2023 indicate that female participation in seminaries has doubled compared to male students, presenting numerous challenges and opportunities. So let us now talk about research question, state of art, and methodology. So what are the primary factors influencing a substantial enrollment of female students in traditional female seminaries, and what pedagogical challenges do they encounter in their educational journey? Additionally, what future trends and opportunities can be identified to enhance their academic experience. In terms of the state of art, Barbara Mitcave explored the question of female education in the South Asian conservative Muslim societies from historical and anthropological perspectives. And Oshational's fieldworks contribute significantly to this scholarly exploration. Within the specific context of Bangladesh, the scholarly work reflections on Deobandi reformist agenda in a female Qaumi madrasa in Bangladesh, authored by Mumtaz Begum and Humayun Kabir, stands as a noteworthy contribution. But, in terms of methodology, it's notable that their analysis heavily integrates sociological theories, so a deeper examination from a pedagogical standpoint is very important. Now, it's essential to underscore that a nuanced understanding of this educational institution cannot be achieved solely through the lens of Islamization, given the paradoxical challenge posed by attempting to Islamize subjects that are already deeply entrenched within an Islamic framework. Now, let us talk about theological and socioeconomic factors. So, there are a couple of theological factors for increasing participation in female seminaries. First, conservative societies are mostly skeptical of coeducation for religious reasons. Western-styled institutions mostly cannot facilitate their expectations on coeducation. Second, conservative societies in Bangladesh are mostly followers of Hanafi fiqh, and they believe females cannot or should not travel alone without their guardians, which may restrict female education further, outside of their local areas. The third point, conservative societies believe that females have some priorities in this world, although they allow them to study the same subjects in religious fields. They are a bit restrictive of female participation in applied fields, including engineering and business studies. There are also some socio-economic factors. Government-controlled, regulated institutions are becoming more and more secularized. Sometimes females are forced to remove their hijab and sit with male classmates, which might be uncomfortable for many. Some subject matters also sometimes contradict a few deeply held religious beliefs, including gender roles and gender identities in recent years. In the 80s and 90s in Bangladesh, education played a significant role for upward mobility for lower class families. However, these days, education is becoming more and more burdensome. Many cannot afford a college degree, and for many, it seems economically unattractive. Moreover, a college degree can cause females to delay their marriage, which is a taboo in conservative Muslim societies only for females. Thus, families are motivated to send their daughters to seminaries so they can finish their studies a bit earlier. In recent years, there has been a growing trend of populism within Muslim communities where they reduce religion in popular aesthetics and dominant social expectations. Thus, choosing alternative options may seem more difficult to imagine. Now, with this increasing participation, there are also some pedagogical challenges. Reducing religion and education for aesthetic reason has posed many challenges. Female seminary graduates get very few job opportunities, making their role in society less important. Their voices and perspectives are not considered and valued. Thus, their expertise becomes less relevant or even non-essential. There are few opportunities for male seminary students for their higher education, although they are very limited. For female seminaries, the opportunities for research are nearly unthinkable. Many female students feel disappointment as they cannot explore further. Now, urban life is becoming more and more expensive. For many middle-class families, maintaining a quality lifestyle requires contribution from both husband and wives, which may seem difficult for female seminary students. Now, summary and recommendations. Female seminaries in Bangladesh can collaborate with male seminaries and also with government-controlled or regulated institutions. International collaboration are also possible. There are plenty of female seminaries around the world, and I mean, Islamic universities are also good choices for them. Through digital literacy, female seminaries in Bangladesh can prepare their students for a broader range of job fields. Working from home, online business, freelancing are becoming more easier. Thus, there will be more opportunities in the near future. Female seminary graduates are already engaged in online teaching. With careful planning and training, these opportunities may become more prevalent. There are concerns that, pedagogical reforms in an era of increased globalization and secularization, the era of social media, may lead to the loss of aesthetics goals in female seminaries. Thus, rejecting deeply held beliefs and expectations might be counterproductive. Now, this is the summary. So there are several theological and socio-economic factors that most likely to contribute to the increase in participation in female seminaries in Bangladesh in recent years. This increasing participation poses many difficult challenges that need to be addressed, including academic, social, and economic questions. Now, with careful planning and training, new opportunities can be explored, or we can say should be explored. So that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentations. The question is to Professor Osmani and Professor Iftekhar, Jamil. You mentioned that there are religious and socioeconomic factors behind these disparities. And you mentioned at the end, instead of using the word religious, you used the word theological. So I'm just asking one question, is there a difference between theological and religious questions? That's number one, because we know that in research, you have to be consistent. So that's number one. I want to know if there is a difference between the two, or we can use them synonymously. And the second question is, don't you think that there are also cultural factors that contribute to these disparities? Because in Muslim societies nowadays, after many years in this Islamic, as Muslims, we have developed cultures. We have developed cultures that have deviated from Islamic practices per se. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think here are two questions. First one is the difference between theology and religion. I think religion is, broad category and broad term, and theology is more specific. So in Arabic, we use aqidah and kalam for theology, and we do not use, we do not use religion for aqidah. Even fiqh, for fiqh, we sometimes use theology, but not religion, because religion includes many things, not just, just fiqh or kalam or aqidah. So I think this is the answer for first question. The second one is you are asking that maybe this is connected to culture, right? This was the question?
Yes.
Okay, so culture is very broad. Again, very broad thing. So, and we cannot mention everything. So we just mentioned theological reasons and socio-economic reasons, and when we are talking about socioeconomic reasons, it includes culture. And now, I mean, maybe many may think that, these are not Islamic cultures and Islamic values or Islamic beliefs. But I think, we should not judge sometimes, because, there are two different type of, research that can be done. One is which is true Islam, and another is what is practical for that cultures, for that societies, right? At the end, I mentioned that, rejecting deeply held, beliefs might be counterproductive. So yes, we can argue, we can, talk about what is true Islam, what is the best explanation. So we know the methodology of Islah or the reformist ideas. But sometimes in some societies, reformist ideas can be counterproductive. That might, make people more angry and more, more reactionary. So is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. I think it's a really important point, that we do have to differentiate between culture and religion. But of course, we accept that religion cannot be practiced outside of culture. Culture always permeates. So that's a really important point. So thank you for clarifying. Are there any other questions online or from the audience in front of me? Yes, sir. The mic.
Yes, please. I want to ask a question here. Is it okay?
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, I want to ask a question here. Is it all right?
If it's online, you may ask a question.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to talk regarding the Dr. Abdullah Mamun that he presented here regarding the.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you just introduce yourself first and where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Osmani from Malaysia.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, please. Okay, I just want to talk about the female pedagogical problems that Dr. Mamun has talked. He talked from Bangladesh perspective, and he said that there is salary dispute and disparity between male and female teachers that we have. We know that in Bangladesh we have for almost 35 years prime ministers, and Bangladeshi people, they are going always for the female prime minister from 90s, I believe, until now we have. I don't know, maybe they love the female prime minister so much. And why do you think that there is salary disparity between male and female? I believe the female prime minister, they're supposed to do the things here. Another thing is also that we have religious and also secular school we have. Religious school we have, and also conventional school we have, the one. And also we have some school run by the state, by the government, and there are some other school, they are private. So in this case, when you talk about the religious school, do you think the religious school, they're enjoying the same salary like the conventional school? Another thing, Dr. Mamun has talked also about the sexual violence to the teachers by the colleagues. Is it only with the teachers? I believe the sexual violence also goes to a student there as well. A student that they were studying in the female or the girls' school and girls' colleges, and also girls' madrasas, seminaries. And I think they are also suffering from the same thing, that the sexual violence by their same, even by their teacher perhaps, and maybe by the governing bodies, by their classmates, by their colleagues, by many others.
Okay.
Yeah, if Dr. Mamun can clarify a little bit, please.
You will indeed. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dr. Osmani, thank you for your question. Now Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is also women, but socio-cultural condition is not friendly for women, especially in Muslim societies. Muslim is not practically used to women go for a job, for a bank, for a school, for college, for madrasa, any other. It's cultural practice in Bangladesh. So it's reduce that case for female opportunities, for their salary, for their environment. It so take time. It's mostly suitable after many years in Bangladesh, and now it is frankly determined. It will take time, inshallah. And sexual harassment for students, girls students or teachers, both sides. But as a women teacher, when she does his duties in the way in her workplace by the committee and by her colleague and any other societies, he attacked in many times the sexual harassment and others harassment. It is practical scenario of Bangladesh because law and order situation in Bangladesh is not so good all time, especially for women. This is the practical problem of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm interested with the presentation of Dr. Abdullah Mamun. He mentioned a number of issues for girl teachers, and one of them is sanitary condition and all this. I would like to know whether any kind of field research and data will be collected or presented in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question.
I can't present here any data practically, but I go in school or madrasa and any other educational institution to know what's women teacher problem here in her workplace and in environmental, in any other societal problem in his workplace. And I work, inshallah, in this subject by data collection of whole Bangladesh inshallah in future. Thank you.
So as a researcher, I on gender, class, and context, there are two strands of argument: cultural, religious arguments, and structural argument. And we know from global monitoring report data, we know from a lot of research from around the world, that whenever structural conditions are improved, access increases, right? We know class makes an enormous difference, socioeconomic access. We know closeness to school coming to you makes a difference. We know a range of structural barriers, addressing them makes a difference. So what I find uncomfortable is tendency to religification of the issue, if that makes sense. Reducing it to culture, reducing it to conservatism. And we also know that in absence of security, structural security, quite often parents tend to make religious argument or cultural argument. So there is a dialectic relationship between structural barriers and cultural discourses. So I think as a researcher in Muslim context and women, I find it very, very important that we don't reduce issues to religions and culture, but really genuinely address the structural issue.
Thank you so much. That's it. That's a useful comment. Thank you so much. I have a question on the Egypt paper. So I might have missed it, and forgive me if I have. So really interesting research in terms of throughput rate and very high attrition rates. That's clearly not drawn between the genders. Can you tell us two questions? Can you tell us more about what are the primary reasons for the high attrition rate amongst your girls? And then I was very interested to know that you have a statutory age of completion. Does that act or that policy get implemented consistently? And does that act actually does it influence high attrition? So does this statutory age of completion policy or act, I'm not quite sure what it is, does it implement it consistently across regions? And secondly, does it actually have an adverse effect of contributing to a high attrition rate? In other words, the child is over age and now the child is compelled to actually drop out. Yeah, makes sense?
Summary, you can start.
Yeah, okay. Primary reasons for attrition. Again, if we go back to our slide where we look at the proximate determinants, we see that the main cause of gender differences in rural Upper Egypt are the girls never entered in the first place. Now, to your question, there are schools everywhere. Every village has a school. That has been a long-held case. So, by and large, it's not structural reasons, it's some sort of socio-cultural reason. We think it has something to do with religion, because this is a very religiously conservative area. We don't have very good data on that, but what we know is that girls are mainly being kept out of ever enrolling in school. Statutory age of completion. Perhaps that's a way we use terminology that is misleading. There's a statutory age of entry. And what we do for completion is simply add the number of years that you get to graduate. Children, there's no formal completion age for, well, I take that back. There may be a completion age for secondary, but basically people are not bumping up against it. There is like an age, I think it's 14 or 15 or something, when you cannot any longer go to primary school.
Yes, it's 14 years old. Primary.
Yeah, but in terms of completion of secondary, you cannot attend classes after a certain age, but you can still take exams.
So you're private candidate.
So you can qualify for secondary completion by taking exams and studying on your own. So I don't know, you know what age they toss people out of secondary?
It's not really tossing them out, like you said, I guess, it's not a statutory age that is set by law. As Ray mentioned, we have a statutory age for entering, for enrollments. But then if you fall behind and you keep repeating, your timely progress is getting longer. So what happens is, it's just they stay home and they go for exams. So you still be qualified to take secondary exams. I'm not sure exactly to what age, but until you are maybe 19, I don't want to say a number, but still you are eligible to complete your secondary education without going to school like normally, like regular students. I think in part also like being old with young people, so people doesn't want to do that, so they just choose to do it on their own. They just have the certificate at the end after they passing the exam.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And I ask that because in South Africa, 50% of young people who start school do not finish. So if 100 kids started in grade 1 or grade R, 50 will be in matric, of which only 10% qualify for higher education. So that for me, this is really interesting. And we also have a policy which actually blocks you from proceeding beyond an age. So it does play a role.
Yeah. I do a lot of work on sub-Saharan Africa, and some countries have only 10 to 20% of young people who graduate from secondary. And in some countries, virtually all of those, some of the countries, half or smaller, less than half, also go on to higher education. But when it always strikes me as strange when you look at a country where only 10 to 20% of children of a cohort graduate from secondary. How does that country run? Who is making decisions? That's a real concern where secondary graduation is very low.
Thank you so much. And I believe you have a question. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Dr. Abdullah. He mentioned a lot of obstacles to female teachers, prayer rooms. I think there are two types of obstacles here. There are some institutional where, for example, the institute refuse to offer a prayer room for female teacher and they do for male teachers. So it's a kind of discrimination or gender disparity. The other thing, what about the workflow in the country level? I mean, is it already also had gender issues in terms of the general law or how it works? Thank you.
Thank you. This barrier I mentioned here for women's teacher who work in many institutions. We have gender role, but there is some problem related with women teachers. In institutional first head of this educational institution, they sometimes they injustice to women teacher. When he fixed her salary, but his mentally he tortured her for poor salary and not devaluation and in any other ways by the committee member and in society. And cultural practice is there sometimes is not friendly for women.
I would not say nice presentation, okay, right. I would like to ask you, my dear friend, when we talk about women pedagogy, maybe I'm mistaken, maybe I'm not grasp the whole concept of it. Is it about teaching, about teachers? You mean when you talk about women pedagogy, this is your limitation, maybe this is what your focus was on women in teaching. That was women pedagogy. Maybe I read it, maybe me, I read it differently. Yes, okay, thank you. Now, my dear colleagues from Egypt, is there policy, is there an educational policy regarding compulsory education or years to attend education? Is there something like this in Egypt? Because I have next question. Is there something like this, compulsory education, that is, you have to attend school, boys and girls till the age of, is it?
Yes, there is, but it's widely ignored.
No, okay, no. There is, okay. Ignored is something else. There is. Second thing, in your research you've done, I don't know, I'm just asking you. I saw that you stopped at 2014.
2014, the data.
The data, yes. Data 2014.
Yes.
And what I just want to know, since then, there has been nothing on?
Well,
from 14 to 23, almost 10 years. Okay, thank you.
That's a really good question. Thank you for that. But because we are using the demographic and health survey to have the representative sample of Egypt, and as I mentioned in the talk, this was the last one that has been done. And after that, there was lots of policy change, and there is no GHS afterwards. And apparently, which is very unfortunate, that will be the last one because the policy thing. So doesn't need no, they do data, but basically the only one that was allowed to collect data, especially on a nationwide, is a CapMass, and they don't publish data. They publish numbers according to what they want to publish. So sorry to say that, but this is what's going on.
Again, this is the question coming back to the structural and cultural, and it's not unique to Egypt. In fact, since yesterday we've heard this argument in different presentations as well. And what I'm inviting us is, I'm not saying the absence of regressive ideologies. Yeah, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the difference that structural support makes, right? So this data that in remote areas, in rural areas, women tend to have less access to education, even if there is an educational institution not far from, yeah. But what are the support systems for women, right? In terms of health, in terms of well-being, in terms of counseling, in terms of employment, in terms of the political, economic agency in that context. So what I mean to say structure, we need to have a broader understanding of these structural support systems for women to flourish, right? And we know from data across the world that in rural areas, in areas that are marginalized areas, quite often there is conservative ideologies or more unwoman-friendly ideologies are involved. But we cannot reduce the argument to, oh, these are religious arguments and these are, then we miss the point.
Thank you all for your insights. But very quickly, when I asked the question about religion versus cultural, I just wanted to mention that sometimes we refer to religion as like one thing. Like someone has already talked about different religious practices, probably even if we talk about Muslim societies, but at the same time, we have to be very specific. So we have developed cultures. Culture sometimes can be part of the structural system.
Sure.
And the other thing is, when I'm thinking, I'm just imagining something when we talk about, when we address an issue like this one. So we say that because families are conservative or because of religion or because of religious factors. But at the same time, we should not ignore something. The way we have been doing schooling have been fixated at one type of schooling. So that is to say, the students have to go to a place, a building that we call school, where they study. So if they don't go to that place, so they don't get any education.
Yeah.
So remember that during COVID-19, what's happened is that we
have a question.
It's just an idea to probably think about.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes shouldn't we ask deeper questions than the questions we've been asking, the traditional questions that we've been asking forever. So is it religious? Is it culture? Is it because of people are conservative, they don't go to school or they drop out of school? But what about the school itself? So let's just change the perspective, change the lens. So instead of us looking at, we are at the school in our ivory tower. So I'm talking about myself sometimes as a researcher in an ivory tower, looking at what is happening and then describing the situation out there. What if we shift perspective and then we go to the other side and then start looking at the school?
Yeah.
So how has the school changed? What are creative ways we may bring school to people?
Thank you. It's a pity that you missed the keynote yesterday, because what the keynote speaker spoke about was taking the school to children. So we are very aware of these deeper questions to be sure, and we have been grappling with some serious concepts and how we understand and define certain practices. So thank you for that, and we look forward to your talk tomorrow. Perhaps we can dive in deeper as well there tomorrow. So
I have a question for you.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
Question for me?
Yeah.
Does anybody have a question? I don't see any questions on here. There are no questions on here. Do you have a question? Oh, you have a question. Okay, here we go.
In Bangladesh, the remarkable increase in women education because our literacy rate now 74.66%, but male 76.5% in and female 72.82%. But Allama Shofi is a man who religious teacher, religious principal of a madrasa. He speak, don't to girls go to educational institution. It's not present situation of Bangladesh, but Bangladeshi women are advanced in education, in madrasa, in school, in university, and everywhere, primary, secondary, and higher secondary. So he mentioned here, speak of one religion person, but especially he told he must be mentioned here. But present situation of Bangladesh, what is it?
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, one thing should be clear that our research were focused on seminaries, female seminaries, not, the female education in Bangladesh. So our research is quite specific. Okay. So we are not talking about, what is the situation for women education in Bangladesh. We are just talking why there is increasing participation. Is this good or bad? That is another discussion we can talk about, but we are just describing a situation. What are the factors? We should be sometimes, if we are judgmental, sometimes we cannot see the real picture. So, so there are also many problems also. For example, if we talk about, this is not only the situation is that, this situation is not only for Bangladesh, also in Afghanistan also. So we cannot change the regime, right? So they will stay there. So we should understand what they are thinking. If we are just judging, we cannot understand properly. That's our research focus actually. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our speakers on your presentations. Thank you for the discussion and questions. We are really grateful for the rich evaluation that's happening. A reminder, please, to complete the evaluation forms that you should scan what's behind me. Online people, you should also have that. It's important to us. Be gentle on the criticism. It's been a long day. But we welcome any constructive suggestions and feedback. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And then before you dash off, we have a short day tomorrow, but you do need to indicate to us, please, to Sukaina or any one of us sitting here, whether you will be joining us on our very exciting journey to FIS. You will notice we are leaving at 11. We're returning at 9 o'clock early, so it's quite a long day. So you might have to really spend some time with us, which might not be a good idea. But please do let us know whether you are joining us so that we know exactly how many people to prepare for. Okay.
Start at 9.
We want to everyone. If this gets more now. So we are starting at 9 o'clock. That means that we all have to be here at 9 o'clock. Okay. Thank you so much. Be seated by 8:45. Thank you. Thank you so much. So well.